House Representatives, Mary Barzey Flores, Debbie Mercasel Powell, and from the U, Donna Shalala, a leader that we are going to send back to the United States Senate, my friend, Bill Nelson. And give it up for an outstanding mayor, one of the most inspiring, gifted candidates that are running this year, the next governor of the great state of Florida, Andrew Gillum. Give it up. So, let me make a confession. I love you back. But you knew that wasn't a confession. Now, there are a lot of good reasons to come to Miami. It's starting to get a little cooler back in D.C. Leaves are falling and the wind's getting a little brisker, and you know, around this time of year you start thinking, I wouldn't mind being in Miami. You got the ocean. You've got really good Cuban sandwiches. You've got very nice-looking people. So there are a lot of good reasons to come to Miami. It's okay. You know, you're right. Sorry. Don't curse in front of kids. Come on. Don't do that in front of kids. Come on. So, we're okay. You know what? This is what I look forward to, is having a few hecklers to get me back in the mood. You know, it's like I enjoy that. You always got to have a few in order to know that you're on the campaign trail. So these are all the reasons I've come down to Miami. But the real reason I came down to Miami, because this Tuesday might be the most important election of our lifetimes. Politicians will always say that, but this time it's actually true. The stakes really are that high. The consequences of any of us staying home really are more dangerous, because America's at a crossroads. The health care of millions. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. Sir. Hold on a second. Listen, here's the deal. Here's the deal. If you support the other candidates, then you should go support the other candidates. Don't be here. One of the things I never understood was why, if you're supporting the other guy, you come to my rally. Go to their rally. Go talk about what you're for. Don't come hollering here. Where was I? America's at a crossroads. The health care of millions is on the ballot. Making sure working families get a fair shake is on the ballot. But maybe most of all, the character of our country is on the ballot. In the closing weeks of this election, we have seen repeated attempts to divide us with rhetoric designed to make us angry and make us fearful. It's designed to exploit our history of racial and ethnic and religious division that pits us against one another, to make us believe that order will somehow be restored if it just weren't for those folks who don't look like we look, or don't love like we love, or pray like we do. It's one that the powerful and the privileged turn to whenever control starts slipping away. They'll get folks riled up just to protect their power and their privilege, even when it hurts the country, even when it puts people at risk. It's as cynical as politics gets. But in 4 days, Florida, you can reject that kind of politics. In 4 days, you can be a check on that kind of behavior. In 4 days, you can choose a bigger, more prosperous, more generous vision of America. An America where love and hope conquer hate. An America where we, the people, whatever we look like, whoever we love, however we choose to pray, however our ancestors came here, we can come together to shape our country's course. That's what Andrew Gillum stands for. That's what Bill Nelson stands for. I'm hoping that's what you stand for. That's what you can do when you vote on Tuesday. And then we've been at this crossroads. We've been at crossroads like this before. And each time we made the right choice, not by sitting back, not by waiting for history to happen to us, but by marching and by mobilizing and by organizing and by voting to make history happen. That's how we abolished slavery in this country. That's how we overcame a Great Depression. That's how we won women's rights and workers' rights and civil rights, LGBT rights and immigrants' rights. That's what made the story of America a story of progress. Ordinary people doing extraordinary things. But progress never comes without a fight. For every 2 steps of progressive change, we often take 1 step back in conservative retrenchment. Every time we start pulling ourselves closer to our founding ideals, that all of us are created equal, endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights. Every time we start including more people in that promise, some folks start pushing back. The status quo pushes back. You win the right to make a union, SEIU. But then somebody comes around and tries to bust your union. You win a higher minimum wage. Then Congress decides we won't raise the minimum wage for a decade. You win the right to vote. They try to make it hard for you to vote. Making this country better has never been easy. I love you too, but this is serious. 10 years ago, 10 years ago, I was campaigning for president. You know, I was in game shape back then. That's why I didn't lose my voice. I could talk all the time. Now I'm not used to talking this much. But 10 years ago, we had just gone through a period of conservative retrenchment. Republicans had been cutting taxes for the rich. They'd been cutting rules for big banks and for polluters. We had just gotten hit with the worst financial crisis in our lifetimes. And guess what? The Democrats had to come and clean up. Bill remembers because he was there. And so with the help of Democrats like Bill Nelson, we got the economy growing again. We covered another 20 million people with health care. We doubled the amount of clean energy we generate. We put tougher rules on banks and credit card companies. We cut our deficits by more than half, in part by making sure the wealthiest paid their fair share of taxes. So by the time I left office, wages were rising, the uninsured rate was falling, the economy was growing, and by the way, that growth has just kept on going. You know, I do have to make this point because right now Republicans are all, look, the economy's so good. Where do you think that started? When did that start? They're talking about how, oh, look, how many jobs we created. The economy created more jobs in the last 21 months that I was in office than it did in the 20 months after I left office. And at the time, they were saying how terrible the economy was. Anyway, we'll get to that. That's what a progressive agenda did. Now, we didn't get everything we wanted to do. You couldn't reverse 40-year economic trends in only 8 years. You couldn't bring all the jobs back that had moved overseas. You couldn't eliminate all the inequality that had built up, especially not after Republicans took over Congress and blocked everything that Bill and I and others tried to do.